Hello everyone, welcome. I will be showing you the demo or the explanation video on how to create what you would have seen during the actual masterclass. So I put it on timer. I will try to keep this to around 20 minutes and will actually include some extension features to what you saw in the masterclass. Hopefully I will explain through everything, but if you don't understand, feel free to ask and reach out to me to ask that specific question. Firstly, we want to create an app. So we go on and we click create app up here. That will pop up this menu here. I will put in a name, disaster relief, let's just say demo, right? And I'll just put that as demo 1 because this is my first video of this, yay. This is basically an on-demand service. It is external facing and I'm testing out business idea. Doesn't really matter, that's just for Bubble to do some demographic building. Okay, next, create a new app. I click that button and now I'm waiting for it to load. And now it's loading up the Bubble interface. Hooray, we've made it to the Bubble interface. It has an application assistant. I will actually close that because I'll be talking you through it. So there we go. So now we are in Bubble. Good job. So on the side here, we can see design, workflow, data, style, plugin, settings, and logs. I'll be using these three. And I will actually be jumping to data to kick us off, and then I'll be coming back to this design. So what I'll be building is a disaster relief platform where volunteers can put up their hand for specific requests. So firstly, we have to understand what does that actually look like. That looks like in the background, we have to manage and store requests. So details on that. So let's put that as a project. And then we have to store a title. Okay, so what's the project title? We have to store a description. So what's being meant and more details on the project or request. We have to store who's actually volunteered for that. So supporters, I'll put current supporters, so people who've already put up their hand. And that's actually a type of a user, so that references someone else who's already logged in. And I think that may actually be, and an image, just so we can give a bit more of a nicer view of it. And I think that is all to kick us off for now. Okay, so now that this is what the database looks like. In the view, you can add privacy. I do want to do that. I will do that in a second. This is data, so as more people use it, you can actually see the live data here fill in. This is option set, which lets you do almost like your drop down menus and then just lets you reference that later. And this is just a manager for all the files which get uploaded to your website. Coming back to privacy, I do want to add a privacy for this project so that our users can actually edit fields of it. So let's say creator is editor. So in other words, that's basically giving them full rights and as the creator of a project. So this project's creator is current user. There you go. So if I'm logged in and I create a project, I want to be able to edit all of it. And I'm going to click this thing called allow auto binding, which means that if there's a field which is referencing that specific entry in the database, they can just edit it live and it will like magicify the edits into the database without you having to do a submission and then check all the fields and then put it in the database. We can just say whatever they say in here can go straight in the database. Okay, there we go. Look at us. We're already 4 minutes down. So now we are in the design. I've clicked on this index page. Let's edit that right here. So I'm going to change the style of that firstly. Just give it a bit more depth and color so that when we go to edit it, anything white will just pop out a lot more. And in terms of layout, I want to make it a column. So what a column means is it stacks things down. A row will stack things sideways, right? And then the other view is aligned to parent, which will give you a view where you can put things in specific locations based on that window. So I want a column because on a website, you want to stack things downwards. So there we go. Index. I also want to add specific states to that. So that's just almost variables or labels. Think of like a physical tag that you put on a suitcase, right? Which has a label, name, and then it has the actual value of that name, right? Your name. So here I want projects to check. So this will store projects that I have not checked yet, which I want to check. So this will be what the users see. Oh, and that's a type project. And that is a list. That's all the projects which the user has not supported yet. And this is a current project index. So that will let us access the right project which hasn't been checked yet by the right number. It will make more sense later. And let's just put a default of that to 1 so that we start off at the first project. Beautiful, so that's the index done. Now we can start the real magic, which I really love, which is bubbled built-in authentication. So, I put that in the wrong spot, but that's okay. Let me just make it visible here. And then let's just drag that there to the center. Sorry, that was my bad. So now that it's in the center, let's add the color. So this is white now. So this is built-in styles so that you can just create a lot of styles on the go, and you can create new, so these are almost templates, styling templates. So this will allow the user to sign up, and we want to show this pop-up only when the user is not logged in. So is logged out, we want it to be seen. I will copy and paste this condition to get the negation of it. So when they are logged in, I want this not to be visible. And let's say this is visible on page load, hide it when it's not visible, and let's just animate it just to give it a bit of life. And let's say this is fixed because all the elements inside of that are already aligned correctly based on that element. So let's just leave that. Bubble have worked it out. Let's give it to them. They've also already added workflows for that, and I'll talk more about that later. Brilliant. Look at that. You've just done authentication. Moving on to the nuts and bolts of this, which is the actual content. Firstly, I'm going to create a main container for everything. So let's just say container, right? Or even main container to be more explicit. This is again going to be a column for the same reason as before. I'm going to space it out 150 pixels from the top so that it's not stuck to the very top of the window. Let's give it a width of, let's say 500. So this is minimum up to, and let's give it, I don't know, let's give it like 95, maybe 85%. How does that look? Yeah, that looks all right. Let's put in the center of the page, and let's give it like a minimum height, I don't know, 400. That sounds about reasonable. Okay, beautiful. And same thing as before, let's make it white. There we go, because of that background that we put before, it's really popping out now. Beautiful. Another thing that I am going to do later on is change this type of content and data source. So if that's been confusing you, don't worry, I'll come back to that and explain what that means later. Next thing we're going to do is actually add a header to this, just so they don't have a header here, but just so this page actually tells you what this whole page is about, because so far the user has no idea. So let's go header group. Okay, so in terms of layout, this is going to be a align to parent. So now you'll get to see what this magic does. We want to center in the center 100% of the width of the parent, and let's just say, I don't know, 45 pixels for now. Now I'm going to do a bit of a design trick. I'm actually going to move it up from its group so that we get this tiny little overlap, and it will make this nice fluid motion onto the group. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the style of the border and then remove it and then change its color to be this. Beautiful. I'm actually also going to change all the borders independently. I will add the top left, so anything which has top, I want to like give it a nice 20. So look at that curve. We already have very nice curve going on there. So that will be the header group, and now I'm going to add the actual heading. So this is a disaster relief page. So let's just put disaster relief. Because it's a heading, I'm going to use H1, which means it's the main heading of the page. This is not centered, so let me go remove style and click the center. Beautiful. This, as you can see, is lined up there. That's very nice. Let's put it right in the center. Let's change the width so that it's a minimum of 200, and then it's just a maximum of whatever it can fit. So look at that, beautiful. We now have a heading for our page. Going strong, and we are 10 minutes in. A bit tight on time, but going very good. Next, within this actual group, we want to actually contain information. So let's put, this is the group for the inner content. Why am I having another group? Well, this is just so I can space things out on the sides a bit more. So I'm going to make this 375 min and then just 95% max, right? So this min and max, they just let you have nice spacing depending on the width of your window. And just like before, let's just say that's 400. Okay, and let's give it a bit of a margin at the top. I don't know, let's say 30, just so we don't glue all the content right underneath the heading. That's just a bit of a design thing, up to you, really up to you. I think that's all for the group inner content. Nice job. Moving on to, we want to add actual content to that. So let's say this group is for our project details, right? So this is where we're actually going to store information about our projects. Exciting. I'm going to have this as a row and put things in the center, which means any item that I put into this group is going to be bunched up within the center of the group. Again, I want this to be 100%, just like the header, to fit all of it from the group that we had just before. And I think the height looks about fine, and I think that's actually about it for this one. Oh, except for the type of content. I said I'd come back to this, and here we are. So the type of content for this, I actually want to assign it to be type project. So what this means is that I'm linking, this group is being associated with one of the fields of the database that we created before. A bit finicky, but you'll see it working once it's live. So data source means, okay, what item are we actually linking to? This is where we go back to what we created with the index. So we're going to loop through all of the projects checked, and item number is actually index number. So if I have 5 fields in my database and index number is 1, I'm going to go and pick the first field in that database, and when index number is 2, I'm going to pick the second field. Beautiful. So now we have data and information feeding through. Now let's do something with that data. Let's put the image up, shall we? So let's put the image into that group, and now we can link insert dynamic data, which means it will change live based on parent groups as project. So the parent was this field just before, project details, and now this is going to be that image. So when the image changes, this image here live will change. If that doesn't make sense, don't worry, it will make more sense once everything comes together. Okay, now for the width. I'm going to make this, I reckon let's go 300. And then max width, let's go 60%, right? So it will fit in 60% and it has width of 6. That, and let's say it has a fixed height. I think 240 should make sense. Yeah, let's stick with 240 for now. Okay, next I'm going to add information. So now we have a picture, let's give it some information as well. This is going to be, again, a column because I want to stack things at the top. Here, let's make it a width. Ooh, that's quite big. Let's make it a bit smaller. Let's say at least 200, and then max width, let's just leave it to what it can fit. Okay. And actually let's give it a min height as well, just like that. Beautiful. I think I'm happy with that. Do I want it to link it? Yes, I do want to link it. I want to link it so that this links to the parent project, just like before. So now we're feeding from that group to another group. Don't worry, that is all so that we can access it from a text field. So this text field will be the project title. Right, so let's go project title, insert dynamic data. That means that we can access this magic property that we just put in just before, and we want that to be the title. Let's give it a bit more styling. Let's give it some H2 dark. Ooh, that looks good. I'm gonna stick with that. And let's go even fancier. I want to underline it, so I'm gonna click here, select this, and go underline. Beautiful. So now we're underlining it. We have it live with, let's go and just fill the whole box as much as you can. That looks good to me. That looks great. Okay, let's copy that again. But before I do that, I want to only show this So I want to only make this visible when there's actually a project. Otherwise, I don't want to show a project title for a project which doesn't exist. So when the parent groups is empty, then I want this element not to be visible. Let me copy paste this so I can have is not empty, then I do have it visible. And just like before, I'm going to have collapse when hidden so that we have it not visible when there is no project. Okay, and here I'm just going to put a sort of a note to the user and say, hey there, nice to see you here. No project is available for you to see yet. Would you want to create one? Would you want? Beautiful. And I'm actually going to change the layout to be in the center and just flip these around. So when it's empty, I want it visible. When it's not empty, I don't want to show it. And I reckon let's hide it on the first page load. And I think that's good. Beautiful, beautiful. Moving on. We're going to add project details. So project description. And now I'm going to, clicked away. I'm going to add the actual information. So let's do the line below, insert dynamic data, current project description. I hope from working through these, you're starting to get how this magic linking to data is working. Again, going to width, just fill the box, just fill the box. And that's it for the live data, which you'll be seeing. And now let's make it so people can actually loop through it. So now we're showing one project. How can they then go to another project? Let's fill this, let's make it a row. I want to box all the items close together, so with a bit of space around. So let's choose that. It'll make more sense what you see, what I actually put inside, but we'll get to that shortly. Let's make it a whole height, let's say 100. Let's give it a bit of space, and let's space it up from what we just had, 25, and let's just go 30 from the bottom, just so it's just a bit of padding, so it looks a bit nicer. Beautiful. And this is for my buttons. Right, so this is a group for buttons which will let us click from left to right. Okay, now I'm going to create this button, but I'm not actually using a button because I wanted to actually contain elements or icons for you to understand what's going on. So this is going to be my group for pass. Let's just go warning. Oh, that looks good. I'm going to keep that style. So now that's a red button for if someone wants to pass. I'm going to use row and bunch up things to the right. Let's say it has a width of, let's just fix the width of 75 and a height of 75. That looks pretty good actually. I'm going to keep that. And now let's go, what do I want inside of it, of that group? I want to put an icon. So let's put an icon. There we go. And I want an icon of the, there we go, just like a refresh to say next. I want next, right? Let's make it smaller. Let's put it in the center. And now let's tell the user what this actual whole box means. It means pass, right? So there you go, just updated that. Now I'm going to make this smaller, the min height smaller, so that when I align it to the center, it will actually line up to a center rather than like an unadjusted center, because it has this whole box around it. And this can be 75 up to whatever. Oh, see how there's still like quite a gap there? Perhaps I will make this whole item bigger. It's still not quite too big. That's okay. And so perhaps I will make this even smaller. Let's make this 30. See how now it's like just better aligned in the center. That's good, that's good. Maybe I'll even make this 2 to make it even bigger. Beautiful, beautiful. That's really great stuff. So now that we have a pass, we want to add like a, I want to support. So let's just copy that and let's put up a hand. Let's get an icon of a hand up. Let's put support. And let's change the color to something a bit more positive, right? So keep the same styling, and I just want like a darkish green. That looks beautiful, very great. And let's just change the background of it to like something. There we go. So that's just the border there. Nice. So now we have like this whole layout going. Now let's add some live action so that when I click on something, something happens. This is exciting stuff. Looks by the looks of it, I may be going a minute or two over time. So when pass is clicked, let's make this red because to link it with the same item. First thing I want to do is I want to increase the index. So I want to go I want to go elements actually, because I want to change an element. In our case, it's index, which is the reference to the actual page. So set state of index to be current index value is project index plus 1, right? So if I was on 1, if I was getting the first element, then I want to get the second element, and so on. So plus 1, beautiful. And I think that's all we have to do for that. Let's copy that and let's paste it. Let's have a green. And this is for when group success. Oh, past copy, it's still cool. Let's change that quickly, right? Let's go back. Support, let's change that to group success or group support. So when group support is clicked, I want to increase the index, but I want to associate, so the current group project, I want to associate, let's see, what can we change? I don't want to change the description, don't want to change the image, don't want to change title, current supporters. Oh, this is a single item. Okay, let me quickly go back, change that to a list. I will want to current supporters, okay. Current supporters, plural, make it a list of users. And delete the original one for, okay, sorry for that. So now we can go, okay, current supporters, add, so we want to add the current user. That looks good, that looks really great, that looks beautiful. Okay, and when the page is loaded, I also want to go set state of index, custom state, projects to check. I'm going to do a search, so do search within our database of projects where the current support does not include the current user. So what this means is that if we've already supported a project, we don't have to view that same project again. Okay, so now let's move that. So we've made a change to the project by adding the current user to that database field, and we've increased the index so that a new project will be displayed here. Beautiful, that looks really great. So now we can support, we can pass, we'll be able to see a project. All that's missing is the ability to add a project. So let's quickly do that. I know I'm over time, I'll try and do this video again. So group add project button. Let's just have this, let's have it aligned to parent, stuck to the side. Let's make it a 50 to fix 50. Right, that looks pretty small, that looks great. Actually, I'll make it 60, give us a bit more leniency. Okay, so in that I'm gonna add an icon which will indicate that we want to add a project. So plus will do, I can't see what that is. Let's remove the style, let's make it green. That makes more sense. Let's change its sizing, because right now it looks really odd. I'm gonna put it in the center. Let's go 40-40 like before. Yeah, that looks all right. Now when that button is clicked, what do we want to do? Well, I'm gonna say that I want to put up a pop-up, right? So that pop-up will have a pop-up with a form, which will add to pop-up create project, right? Again, just like before, let's create a quick header. Oh, so change this to column. Let's add a header on this. So I reckon, yeah, line to parent will work. Or actually, let's go row and let's just put the header contents in the middle. So header, let's make it blue just like before. I reckon let's just remove style and let's make it flat color and let's make that dark blue because that was nice. I liked it. And let's just squish that right to the top. So let's go 100% width and I reckon 45% height. That looks beautiful already. Okay, quickly adding in. So create request. And just like before, I'm actually going to do a light so it looks kind of not the dark color, otherwise it will hide in, and let's put in the center. Again, just changing the layout in case someone does resize the window. That looks perfect, very good. Now all we have to do is actually add the fields. So just like before, I'm gonna add another group just so we can space things nicer. Create project inner container. Oop. Enough. Let's just go with that. And let's again go with a row. Yep, align things to the top, on the side. Now I want to put this in the middle. And I reckon 400. Yeah, that looks good. Let's keep that. In height, let's go like with a 300 up to filling everything that you can. Let's go with that. That looks good. Okay, now let's add what we want inside. We want a project title. Right, let's change, there's a big gap here. I do want a gap at the top actually, so let's add a gap at the top. And let's change this gap here. Oh, that's so quite big. 30, beautiful. And let's just let it fill up the whole length of the width. Let's add a couple of those. Whereas this will relate to the description. This will relate to the image. I think that's actually all we need, just the description image. So let's delete that field. Let's add an input of title, right? Let's add an input for the description. And let's use a picture chooser for the image. That looks a bit odd with all those other fields. So let's quickly change that so it looks the same, right? So let's just go something like that. Perfect. I really love the look of that. Now let's add a button which will let us submit, right? And on submit, all I'm actually going to do is just hide this window. And again, just giving it a bit of a nicer styling there. So I just increased the margin, made it the same width as everything else. Same thing as before. I'm going to link this to a new project. So project, and I'm going to go data source. I'm going to fill this in later actually. But what that allows us to do is do this magic linking between the database based on what the person added. So that links immediately to the title. This will link immediately to the description. And this will link immediately to the image. Beautiful. So now when we click that, everything's already linked. So when we click submit, all we have to do is just hide that window. So all I'm going to go is elements and hide. Just hide that pop-up. Hide that create project. Perfect. And now when I click this plus or the group, I want to show the pop-up and I want to give it the appropriate action. So let's go, I want to display data within my pop-up, right? So I'm giving it data. What do I want to give it? Ooh, we haven't created that yet. So I want to create data for it to display, create a new project. Nothing there I can already fill in because that's what the user is about to fill in. So I've just created an empty row in my database, and now data to display will be this specific thing. Beautiful. And now let's just show an element just as they recommended that pop up. It says we have an issue here. Okay, let's quickly just go create project. Oh. That's because this guy, this create project, was not linking to a project yet. So this, I actually linked the inner group to it. So there we go. So now the magic should work. So if you missed that, I clicked create this here. I changed the source to project, and then the inner group I linked that to the parent. So I linked that group to that group. Right. So now when we create a project, we click the button, we create a project, we associate the data there, and then we just show the pop-up. And then when we click the submit button, all we do is we hide the pop-up because all that data is already linked to that project in the database. And I reckon that is actually all we need. Let's go preview it. Oh, this doesn't look too great. We can see this even though we haven't logged in. So let's quickly change that. Let's access this main container and let's go, okay, if the user is logged out, then I don't want you to be able to see it. Okay, so let's just hide is logged in, then I do want you to see it. And let's say it's not visible, collapses, which means it disappears when it's not visible. And let's just say it fades in. And with 30 seconds left, beautiful. Now we can log in. Let me log in. So I'm just signing up right now. If I were to come back, I would click login. Oh, look at that, it's being recognized by my tools. Oh, there's no project available. No wonder. Okay, project, I'm gonna go need help moving my van. My van got stuck in the last disaster, and I would love some help moving it back on the road. I do actually have an image for this, and that is this image. And what's happening here, as it's loading, it's actually putting it in the database for us. And when we click submit, beautiful, let's refresh and see if it all loads. Oh, look at that. And if we pass, we would actually move on to the next field, which means we haven't supported it yet. So if I were to refresh again, we'd see it again. But if I were to support it, then we've already given support. And if I were to refresh, then we'd see that, hey, no more projects for us to support. Moving on from here, what I would suggest to you as extensions is how can you add almost like another one of these groups, maybe below it, listing all the projects that I've said I would support. So you would probably, just like as a quick dump, have a project linking with a group linking projects where I search projects where the current supporters contained the current user, okay? And then you can almost have a list. Or you could use this repeating group where, again, similarly the source, you can do a search for projects where the current supporter contains the current user. Okay, but the whole point of me giving you this is so that you can play around and explore. So you can do that. What would be another extension? Another extension is you can display locations. So Bubble has a nice way of displaying Google Maps and Google Map pins. You could also have dates on that. So I reckon have a play around and see what you can do. Have a play with the styling. So as you saw here, so if I were to open this as window, let's say, or let's say this was like, there we go. So now we can see how that kind of locks in, but anything smaller, it starts getting a bit ugly. So how could you fix that? But we get this nice feature here. And again, if I go to the plus, that seems to kind of fit in the whole width. Okay. So things for you to extend on. How could you, one, show the user what they've been supporting for? How could you fix a bit of that layout? And 3, just play around with other things, right? You can send emails, you can add maps, you can add dates. Have fun. So I hope this was a bit informative. It was a bit of a rush, and enjoy.